trying to be an all-round good egg, trying to be a good citizen in our community, primarily operating in the Black Country for over the last 20 odd years, helping set up and start up secondary schools, multi-academy trusts, intermediate labour markets, the scars of setting up social enterprise restaurants, working with young people that some would class as harder to employ, and obviously trying to address some of the inequalities in our locality. And a very passionate Black Countryite, the centre of the universe, the centre of the next industrial revolution. That's exactly where I'm at. For my sins in recent times, I've now joined the board of the Oversight Trust, the new name for the Big Society Trust. So looking at all those people that are trying to attract social investment into our localities. But the Black Country is where I herald from, as I said. I also have responsibility as a non-exec director on its local enterprise partnership, particularly focused on social enterprise development and how we can also look at some of the economic inclusion issues. And last week we had our board meeting at the LEP, and we have the great accolade, I say great accolade, a bit of sarcasm there, of being the highest youth unemployment area in England. And that was the latest data from September, with over 14,000 youth claimants. And we've got to do something about it. And that was the conclusion of everyone around the board, given this challenge. And in my own general work, I've got my own school-age kids who are part of the multi-academy trust, which I co-funded a few years ago, the Mercian Trust. In our own trust, we've obviously faced the battles and challenges of how to educate kids in this current climate, both virtually and practically. Whole school groups being shut down because of the consequence of 2 or 3 people getting COVID, whether that's at student level or at staff level. We've deferred our T levels for a year because we know the economy can't cooperate or accommodate rather the work experience that is needed to go with those T levels. So we've been hampered by that challenge as well. And very interesting what Kirsty says about the issue around food poverty. So we've had to provide community boxes for our students who families have been affected by furlough. So it's a huge challenge. Now, I don't have the Black Country youth COVID stats as they affected for BAME communities, which obviously is of a particular interest for me. In fact, our LEP doesn't collect any of those stats at age or wider for that matter. And I chased them today about that because they said that it's just not available to them, which surprised me. But I can take an educated guess, given that we have quite a material population. And no doubt, as the Resolution Trust report came out the other week, that BAME communities have been materially affected by this impact, this COVID impact. And with particularly the concentrations on the transport and storage sector and the accommodation food sectors, we've seen a material impact on those communities. So my question is, in all those horribleness of the situation where we're in, what do we do about it? What do we do? Obviously, forums like this are very important. I think that collective response is material. And we've gathered around in our LEP that response to say, what can we do across the public, private and civil society together to try and address those issues? I call it an economy of together. That's my working title within our LEP. Others might call it levelling up. But this whole agenda needs to be seriously applied across the board. And it is that live discussion which we've got, whether it's in our towns deal, which I have some responsibility to say, how can we maybe use and transform our high streets as another way to try and engage this challenging agenda. And we're looking at, yes, 10-year based strategies, new theories of changes, which I think we're all conversant with now, but maybe focusing on those 3 areas of skills and productivity, equality, diversity, inclusion, and dare I say, climate change, to try and mobilize the energy of our social enterprise sectors, the social and commercial finance, and to match resources with the public and private sectors in that sort of economy together, levelling up. Clearly, these are long-term strategies, but we need action now, as you've seen by the stats I've cited. Now, for me personally, Kevin Davies, I broadened our apprenticeship newspaper campaigns. That started in London in 2012 with the Evening Standard, the Ladder for London. But we're using the medium of the hard copy and online and regional newspaper press to try and address those challenges in 3 ways. One, by raising awareness through front page and editorial, to galvanise those people who've still got an interest of having their face in the papers, that's politicians and certain employers. convening through that public, private and civil society sector steering groups to have the conversations, and to create virtual and actual job and training portals to provide a clearinghouse to match employers, training providers and job seekers to all the various initiatives that come up with that Kickstart or apprenticeship levy transfer or the work of the careers and enterprise companies, etc. So for me, practicalities, creating intermediate labour markets, I think are probably going to be the things that we need to do now, whether that's businesses that are supported post Kickstart or some sort of national citizenship type thing, things that we did in the past. I was involved with the Future Jobs Fund. I believe that was a success, and I think we're going to need something like that in this current climate, and that's what we're discussing at our LEP to add value to it. I think we also probably need to change the rhetoric around BAME. I don't like using the term, to be honest with you, because it assumes that ethnic minorities are one monolithic, cohesive group, and they're not. We need to make sure that we have nuanced approaches to those communities. We know statistically that Black and Bangladeshi communities don't have great reserves of savings and will be struggling to rely on those savings to get them through this particular climate, whereas Indian populations statistically have. So we need to do that. So for me, data is absolutely important. And like my LEP, we need to do better. Maybe finally publish maybe racial pay disparity reports, which I know obviously we do for gender, but we need to know what's happening on the ground. I think we need to perhaps reform investment in startup businesses, particularly from our community, ethnic minority community groups. As I said, recreate some sort of form of future job schemes and maybe shield those communities, particularly in this current climate. So for me, I'm here to learn, but I'm also here to try and share as well to see what we can do in this sort of economy of together approach. That's 5 minutes, I think, Kirsty, or maybe a little bit more.
Kevin, that's good. I'm going to jump in and ask you a question, if that's okay. And